Welcome to the channel. This is the 2022 Miss Grand International recap. My name is Dani Walker, and if you're a returning subscriber, you probably know that this recap is pretty late. That's because I've been traveling in Europe and I dropped my camera and it broke. So I have been struggling to find a new camera, which I finally was able to do, and also pay for that camera, and that was pretty expensive to replace abroad. So if you want to support the channel, please do so by sharing this episode with a friend, hitting that super thanks button, and of course subscribing and hitting the notifications bell. It makes a huge difference and I greatly appreciate it. Let's start with the top of the show. Does anything in recent years really compare to Miss Grand International show openings? I don't believe so. I think that the effort and the lengths that they go to produce huge productions for their opening numbers is really, really impressive. That brings me to my next point about Grand and Universe. A lot of people compare the two systems, but I've thought about this and I really feel like the systems are like apples and oranges. There is no way to compare them. They're both offering something very, very different. Yes, they're both pageants, and I think it's possible to watch and appreciate what both pageants have to offer. But when I really think of their marketing strategies, I feel that the Miss Universe organization is a lot more classic. And then when I think of Miss Grand International, I think of controversial. It seems that that is the tactic that they are using to spread news about their pageant. A great example of this is that this year they roomed Russia and Ukraine together, which obviously it was a very sensitive topic to address online for so many different pageant fans. And then we saw this show clip, and it has the world, and then it has the MU, which everybody can assume stands for Miss Universe, and then the MGI logo just knocks it out. And I could never see the Miss Universe organization doing something like that, like really, really being specific, coming after another pageant. And I think that that has been the draw to Miss Universe and why it's seen as the #1 pageant internationally, is because they try to take the high road whenever it comes to controversy. And most of the time, they don't even address controversy. They just kind of wait for it to boil over instead of feeding into it. And like I said, I think that's the difference between these organizations, is that the Miss Grand International organization is really thriving and feeding off of that controversy, and it's a different tactic, and honestly it works. People are talking about it, you get more views, you get more follows. It's just one way to go about it, even if it rubs some people the wrong way. So with that said though, I want to talk now about the contestants beyond the opening number. So we went into swim, and this year it was really interesting because they didn't compete in a real swimsuit for finals. And normally at Miss Grand International, I will say that their swimsuits are quite revealing, more so than at Miss Universe, for example. But this year the contestants wore an outfit. I don't even know how to describe it. It had pants and a corset, and you tell me what your interpretation of what this outfit would be called is in the comments. The top 20 recompeted during the finale, and the way that I felt about this top 20 was the way that I felt about the top 10 at Miss Universe 2018. I always refer back to that class because I felt like overall as a group they were so strong that I felt very, very torn about who is going to move on to a top 5. So when I saw this top 20, I had that similar feeling where I was like, I don't even know who's going to be called into a top 10, honestly, because after I watched the swim performance, I thought everybody did a phenomenal job. Like, they were so impressive and really raised the bar. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about some of my favorites, and then I'm going to talk about some things that I just noticed. So I might be missing some of your favorites, but bear with me here. First, Brazil. Strong opening, just stunning. Beautiful, great hair, great makeup, great performance. Really, what was not to love about this? Colombia, never not beautiful for international competitions. I cannot think of an international competition where Colombia, maybe she wasn't in the top 5, maybe she didn't win, but she always looks great. Curaçao, who is a former Miss Universe Curaçao. And I really was rooting for her because she competed at Universe, and then this was another try for her at a different international title. So I love seeing that perseverance, and I think that she did a great job here, honestly. Czech Republic's routine for me was a little bit over the top, even for Grand International, but I will say that I appreciated her energy and that she was being very present, and if I were judging, that would probably get extra points from me at a competition. Dominican Republic, oh my gosh, what a strong competitor. I have been loving Dominican Republic this year across the board for different international pageants. If you watch my recaps, you will notice that. I will also say she had a resemblance to Catriona in her nose and her mouth. I don't know if anybody else felt that, but when I looked at her nose and her mouth, I was like, kind of giving me Catriona. Honduras was very fun, and she had a very strong spin turn. My goodness, only at Miss Grand International would you see a contestant rocking Fine A Girl on massive earrings. Only at Grand. Nigeria for me, wow, the quality of her spin turns. And it's funny because one of my contestants brought her up in one of our coaching appointments and said, have you seen Nigeria in prelims for Grand? And I said, no, I haven't been able to watch. And then I saw this and I was not surprised because at this point I had heard of her. But when I saw it, I was like, wow. And the facials really enhanced this performance for me. Philippines. The quality of her spin turns in this performance, it brought me back to the precision of Samantha Bernardo when she was first runner-up at Miss Grand International. That is all I was thinking about, and that has been one of my favorite performances just ever at Miss Grand International, because I felt like it was giving enough to the point where you would do well at Grand, but it wasn't giving too much for me, because the over-the-top performances aren't actually my favorite, not what I lean towards, but Samantha had the right balance for me, and for that, she has one of the most memorable performances, and I just felt that Roberta was channeling her. When Puerto Rico came out, I was just thinking this year is just too strong at Grand because I love her. I loved her when she competed for PR Universe. And I will say also that she looks like my friend Nicole. She looks like the brunette version of Nicole, who was Miss Arizona USA 2018. Tell me that you see it, because Nicole doesn't really see it. She like kind of sees it. Please tell me that you see it. Spain. She looked like a Barbie doll. I was honestly just very distracted by her face. She is so beautiful. And one thing is that I was really glad to see Spain in the top 20, because in recent years at Miss Universe, I feel like Spain keeps getting overlooked. I believe their last placement was 2017, which was my friend Sophia. And I just feel like Spain people aren't paying attention, and they should. Moving right along to Thailand, look at her working that hair. This performance worked because it was Miss Grand International. If you saw this at another international pageant, this probably would not work. It would be over the top, but it's Grand and they love it. So I figured that she would be moving on. For UK, I just want to say, did she wear point shoes for prelims as well? Also something very unexpected, but not unexpected for Miss Grand International. Venezuela, I think, is so well suited for Grand in comparison to when she competed at Universe. Also, I like that they changed her style of makeup. I talked about that in other episodes. I had a feeling she would do well at Universe, but she wasn't one of my ultra top picks, like in a top 5. But when I saw that she was competing for Grand, I was like, I think this is a much better organization for her. I just felt that it would be. And I think, look what happened. It was. So, loved her. Vietnam, she was giving me feelings of, wow, maybe they can get a back-to-back here. The way that she held her eye contact with the camera for what I thought was the perfect amount of time was brilliant. Next, we narrowed it down to a top 10, and this, if I were judging, would have been so difficult for me. I don't really know what would have happened if I would have been on a judging panel, but let me just say that these speeches, in comparison to what I've seen from other Grand competitions, were exemplary, and not only for Grand, but for other similar competitions where the contestants present a speech, like at Miss International, or even like at Miss Earth when the contestants are responding to hashtags or buzzwords. I was very impressed with these speeches. A couple surprises for me, though, was the exclusion of Curaçao, Vietnam, Philippines, and Nigeria. I thought that those 4 easily could have made it into a top 10, but I think that because it was so competitive that this is just what happened, friends. But let me know who your surprises were for exclusions for the top 10. I'm curious what you thought about this. Let's talk about this. Brazil. So she greeted everyone in what I would assume would either be Indonesian or Thai. Indonesian because it was the host country, or Thai because of the owner. If you know, please share below. I can't recognize the difference between the two languages by ear. Now, she talked about children being killed in war, and then she said, our future is changed when they die. We are more alike in our humanity than different in our nationality. May the power of love always overcome the love for power. That was my benchmark at that point. I don't care that she was first. I was like, how is anybody else going to top this? Now, we have Cambodia. Cambodia talked about being abused at age 6 and that women are mothers of the world. She also addressed sexual abuse and that we should love each other. And then she threw in the part about grand being the one and only. And I would say overall, she spoke with a lot of passion. It was a great delivery. Czech Republic talked a lot. She had a message. And I think also her being from a European country, she is in close proximity and very connected to what's been going on in the world. So this made sense. She said, when we see war on the news, we don't see a lot. I realized how blessed I am that I didn't experience war. I don't understand why I got so lucky and why there's a girl just like me, prettier than me, smarter than me, etc. When I heard this part of her speech, I immediately thought of the Angelina Jolie acceptance speech for the Herschel Humanitarian Award. If you know what I'm talking about, comment below, because Angelina made some very similar remarks by saying, I've never understood why some people are so lucky enough to be born with the chance that I have to have this path in life, and why across the world there are women just like me with the same abilities, the same desires and work ethic and love for her family who would most likely make better films and better speeches, only she sits in a refugee camp. And then there's more to this speech, but that's exactly what I was thinking, and I wonder if that was the inspiration behind this speech. Indonesia. She said, thousands of children across the globe are victims of disparity. I have been from a place that seems out of reach, but my family always taught me to dare to dream, to change my life. And with that, she really got my heart, and I know that I can't express it in the way that she did. You really need to go back and watch this speech because it just got me so emotional. And she said, there's a lot of Indonesian people who support me. Miss Grand International opened my eyes to what's possible, but I believe limitations are only in your mind. And I just felt so tearful in this because she's right. She's so right. And that's what I love about pageantry, is that so many young women can come from basically nothing and find great success because of the opportunities that they've had through pageantry. Puerto Rico shared some interesting information. I had no idea that she is Russian. She was born in Russia. She lived there until she was 13 years old, at which point she was adopted. Then she moved to Puerto Rico. And then she spoke directly to President Putin in her speech. She took the time and she spoke in Russian, so I don't have a translation of that, but I will say it was powerful, and I like that she took that initiative. Thailand talked about the effects of war, society, and education, and that the war between Russia and Ukraine doesn't benefit anyone. The change begins with us helping one another stop the war now. That was essentially her message, which I feel like it was just a very broad, overreaching message that's very of the time. I think that's why it's just accepted so well. Venezuela. She said, we only have time to watch the news to see how many conflicts are in the world and in my country. I felt like that was a really important part because it really personalized her answer. It's very true. There's a lot of things that are happening and have happened in Venezuela, unfortunately. And she said, let's get together regardless of borders. Let's stand, join our voices in the name of peace. So great unifying message that she delivered. Let's lighten things up a little bit and let's talk about gown. The top 10 competed in gown and Brazil went first, and her gown was inspired by a former title holder from decades ago. And I saw this on a post on Instagram, but I didn't remember to save it, and I didn't remember to save the title holder that her gown was inspired by. So if you know, please share that in the comments. She did a fantastic job. It's just stunning. I loved the hairstyle back with that higher neck of her gown. Everything was working. It was her night. It was her night. Cambodia's hair touch was very grand, and her spin turn in that gown really impressed and surprised me. It was so smooth. Colombia really nailed this for me because she was just red hot, okay? She was perfect. The red on her, that sheer iridescent accordion pleat train, the eye contact that she had with the camera, I was so wrapped up with her. Czech Republic was very on brand for Grand with her posing, I will say that. But the thing I was not loving about this performance was the overarching lean back when she walked. I didn't think that the walk needed it. Indonesia, the gown caught my attention, that gown. But honestly, when does Indonesia not have an incredible gown for Grand? I don't recall a time in recent years. So her placement did not surprise me at all. Puerto Rico, I have to say that I love this gown on her. First of all, stunning. She is gorgeous. But for Grand, I felt that this performance was very safe. This performance, I think, would have worked very well at Miss Universe. Spain really came in strong for me here. Oh my gosh, that hair pulled back. She was giving me late 90s, early 2000s with that style of neckline, that halter looking thing. I don't know how you would describe it, but I loved it and the performance. Thailand, wow. Okay, what a unique gown choice, which isn't surprising for her specifically because her winning gown for Grand Thailand, also very unique, but black is just not a color we see as much anymore. But of course she blinged out this gown, so it made a lot of sense for Grand. I'm also gonna say that that's particular neckline, that kind of like modified collar with the low V, it has been popular in Thailand. I believe that Miss Universe Thailand, that her preliminary gown also had a very similar collar, and it looks lovely on stage. I personally love it. But she had a very grand performance, and I really loved her for this. She was really working it. You could just feel her confidence. Venezuela, I was so happy for her because I talked about this. I did not feel that her Universe gown was as original. I didn't feel like it was really specially made for her, but this gown is unique, and it had style and personality, and it made sense for Grand. And even her little, headpiece thing going on, and how she finished it all with a smile. The performance was fantastic, and I was just so happy to see this gown on her. Now let's get into our top 5 Q&A. So as usual, I'm gonna make this statement. I don't love that every contestant hears the question at the same time, because there's different advantages and disadvantages dependent on your style of how you answer your onstage questions. Sometimes it could psych you out if you hear somebody else's onstage answer. Other times it might help you create a better answer. So I really hope that in the future they start putting headphones on the contestants for this, but at this point I'm talking to a wall when I make this statement. Top 5 was Brazil, Indonesia, Thailand, Czech Republic, and Venezuela. And here is what they were asked. Currently, there is a war between Russia and Ukraine. The president of Russia has ordered an invasion of Ukraine, killing its people, destroying its architecture, and creating uncertainty for the future. If you had an opportunity to send a message to President Vladimir Putin, what would you say in 60 seconds? What would you say in 60 seconds? That is not an easy question, and I don't think anybody really has a great answer to that, not even our diplomats. But here's what they said. Brazil, I would tell him that he shared history with Ukraine for long, long years, and also they shared the most important thing, the same fate as humans. Great point. War just brings pain. We need to start thinking what we can do, even if it's small actions, to work towards diplomacy and understanding, because together conflict and pain can rise, but we can arise above violence and brutality. Strong answer. Well said. Indonesia, I would say to Mr. President Putin that war will never have a happy ending. Growing up in a family that taught me about kindness, compassion, and respect, I learned that kindness is the only way to bring a better future. When we have peace, we will see a big smile on children's faces, and these faces are the future of our world. For Thailand, I missed some of her answer. I couldn't understand all of it, so if you have a better translation for this, or if you need to correct me, please feel free to do so in the comments. I'm going to do my best with this. So she said, "Dear President Putin, everything you do is not different from a beast." I'm not positive that she said that, but that's what I heard. Then she went on to say, "You kill innocent people. Why do you think like this? Why do you do this? Everyone in the world deserves to have peace, love, happiness, and respect each other. Please stop the war. Please stop the violence. Everyone in here who agrees with me." And she kind of got the crowd going at this point. She reiterated basically who agrees with me. And then she said, "Please stop everything and bad things. You can make love and do better things in this world." Czech Republic said, "I grew up in a country that was occupied by the Russian Soviet Union for over 40 years. Being raised by my grandmother, she told me stories of the oppression, and she emphasized that we should learn from history, that oppression is never the right choice. If I had to speak to President Vladimir Putin, I would force him to look at the eyes of a mother who just lost her child due to the senseless bombing in Ukraine. I would force him to look at the eyes of a father who just sent his 17-year-old son off to fight in a war that he does not believe in. I would force him to look into the eyes of children who are scared in refugee camps. I was volunteering there. I know how heartbreaking it is. And then I would ask him, where is your heart? Where is your consciousness? What are you fighting for? And is it worth it?" Honestly, I thought that was a very, very powerful answer. And you could hear the conviction in her voice when she was speaking. It just makes me emotional to see all of this stuff just happening in the world. Venezuela. "I cannot prevent war in the world. I can't extend my hand to all those experiencing violence. So I'm here as Miss Grand International as Venezuela, and I want to say that I want to be the voice for people who are going to do it, because I'm here, and I want to say, Mr. Putin, that the war is not the solution. So I invite you to put your hand on your heart and understand that the only solution in the world is to be peace, or peaceful, is to be love or loving. And so I'm here supporting the Miss International campaign against war and violence. The only solution in the world is to," and then I missed this part of what she was saying, and then she added, "and more love." So the only solution in the world is to something and more love. Here are our results. Fourth runner-up was Czech Republic. Kind of surprised me with her ending answer, but I really think that when I saw these results that they were coming from the overall impression of the pageant. I think that the contestants in the top 5, that their answers were pretty evenly matched. They all did a great job. I didn't feel like anybody really stumbled through their answer, and as a result of that, I don't think that they moved in the judges' choices. I don't think that anything changed. So whoever was a favorite going into the top 5 remained the favorite coming out of the top 5. Third runner-up, Venezuela. Second runner-up, Indonesia. First runner-up, Thailand, and that means that Miss Grand International 2022 is Brazil. So congratulations to Brazil. Congratulations to all the contestants for having the courage to get up on that stage and for putting in all of the work and the effort. Know that none of that is in vain, that if you grew from this experience, that is a win. I hope that you hold on to that. I hope that you don't stop dreaming and that you apply this type of effort that you put into this title into any other endeavor that you have set out for yourself and your life. So those are my final words for all of the contestants. Thank you, and I appreciate all of you for tuning into this episode. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed it and that you'll choose to share it with a friend. That is so helpful here on YouTube to the channel. I greatly appreciate that support, and I really hope that you'll tune in for the next episode. Aside from that, you can check out my other recent pageant recaps and episodes that I hope that you'll enjoy.